The galaxy of Andros 12 was a distant realm, far beyond the reaches of human exploration. It was a place of mystery, where ancient stars flickered in an eternal dance and where planets orbited in elliptical patterns around suns of unimaginable colors. Andros 12 was a galaxy teeming with life, but not the kind humanity had ever encountered. On the outer rim of this galaxy, there existed a planet called Kelviar. It was a world of contrasts, with its twin suns casting a dual shadow across the jagged mountains and sprawling plains. The atmosphere was dense with a silvery mist, and the surface was dotted with bioluminescent flora that pulsed rhythmically, as if breathing with the planet itself. Kelviar was home to the Varu, an ancient and highly intelligent species that had thrived for millennia. They were tall, slender beings with translucent skin that shimmered in the light, revealing the complex network of veins and organs beneath. Their eyes were large, almond-shaped, and glowed with a soft blue hue, allowing them to see in the darkest of nights. The Varu were a peaceful race, deeply connected to their planet and its natural rhythms. They lived in harmony with their environment, drawing energy from the planet's core through advanced technology that was both a marvel of engineering and a testament to their respect for the natural world. But all was not well on Kelviar. The Varu had long known of the impending arrival of a celestial event that would change their world forever. The Great Convergence, as they called it, was a phenomenon where the gravitational forces of Andros 12's black hole and a rogue planet passing through their star system would align, causing massive disruptions across the galaxy. The Varu had prepared for this event for centuries, developing technology that would shield their world from the worst of its effects, but the true extent of the convergence was unknown. On the eve of the Great Convergence, the Varu gathered in the capital city of Lur-Ia, a sprawling metropolis that floated above the planet's surface, anchored to the ground by massive energy conduits. The city was a marvel of architecture, with towering spires made of crystalline material that reflected the twin suns' light in a dazzling array of colors. The streets were filled with the hum of energy and the quiet murmur of the Varu as they moved through the city, preparing for the coming storm. In the heart of Lur-Ia stood the Grand Council Hall, a massive structure that served as the seat of the Varu's government. Inside, the most esteemed leaders of their society gathered around a central platform, where holographic images of the galaxy were projected in exquisite detail. The Grand Council was led by High Chancellor Jirax, a wise and revered leader whose long years of service had guided the Varu through many challenges. His translucent skin had taken on a slight grayish tint, a sign of his age, but his eyes still shone with the vibrant blue light of his youth. As the council members discussed their final preparations, a sudden disturbance rippled through the room. The holographic projection of Andros 12 flickered and distorted, the image shifting and twisting before their eyes. Gasps of alarm filled the hall as the Varu watched the rogue planet's trajectory shift, deviating from its expected path. The calculations had been flawless, or so they thought, but now it was clear that something had gone terribly wrong. High Chancellor Jirax raised a hand, calling for silence. "We must remain calm," he said, his voice steady and commanding. "This is an unexpected development, but we have faced challenges before. Our shields will hold." But even as he spoke, another ripple of distortion passed through the hologram, this time accompanied by a deep, resonant hum that seemed to emanate from the very core of the planet. The Varu felt it in their bones, a vibration that sent shivers down their spines. The Great Convergence had begun, and with it, an ancient force had been awakened, something beyond their understanding, something that had lain dormant for eons, waiting for this precise moment. As the planet's crust trembled and the twin suns dimmed, the Varu looked to the skies, where a new presence had appeared. A massive structure, unlike anything they had ever seen, was materializing above them, its form shifting and pulsating with an eerie, otherworldly energy. It was a ship, but not of any design the Varu recognized. Its surface was smooth and reflective, like liquid metal, and it moved with a grace and fluidity that defied the laws of physics. The Varu's communication systems buzzed to life, filled with static and incomprehensible sounds. Then, a voice, deep and resonant, cut through the noise, speaking in a language that was not of the Varu, but somehow they understood. "We are the Ziran," the voice said, "travelers of the cosmos, guardians of the ancient knowledge. We have come for the convergence." The Varu were frozen in place, their minds struggling to process the enormity of what was happening. The Ziran were the stuff of legends, ancient beings rumored to be as old as the galaxy itself, shrouded in mystery and myth. And now they were here, on Kelviar, in the midst of the Great Convergence. High Chancellor Jir-Ax stepped forward, his voice trembling slightly as he addressed the alien presence. "We are honored by your arrival, Ziran. But why have you come? What do you seek from us?" The voice of the Ziran responded, its tone neither threatening nor comforting. "We seek the Nexus, the heart of your world. It is the key to the convergence and to the survival of this galaxy. You have protected it well, but now it must be unlocked." The Nexus, the very core of Kel-VR, a source of immense energy and power that the Varu had safeguarded for generations. It was their most sacred relic, the foundation of their society, and the key to their advanced technology. To unlock it meant to unleash forces that even the Varu did not fully understand. "We cannot," Jir-Ax replied, his voice firm despite the fear gnawing at his insides. "The Nexus is our most precious treasure. We do not know what will happen if it is opened." The Ziran's response was swift and final. "It will be opened, by choice or by force. The convergence will either destroy this galaxy, or it will be harnessed to usher in a new age. The choice is yours, Varu." With that, the communication cut off, leaving the Varu in stunned silence. The hologram flickered once more, showing the rogue planet now on a collision course with Kel-VR. Time was running out. As the great convergence loomed closer, the Varu were faced with an impossible decision: to open the Nexus and trust in the Ziran, or to defy them and risk the annihilation of their world, and possibly the entire galaxy. The fate of Andros 12 hung in the balance, and the Varu knew that whatever they decided, their world would never be the same. As they ascended back to the surface, the city of Lur-Ia was bathed in the warm light of the twin suns, as if nothing had happened. But the Varu knew better. The Ziran had come and gone, leaving behind a mystery that would haunt them for generations to come. High Chancellor Jir-Ax looked up at the sky, where the stars were beginning to emerge. Somewhere out there, the Ziran were watching, waiting, guarding the ancient knowledge that had saved them all. But for now, peace had returned to Kel-VR, and the Varu could once again look to the future with hope. The days following the Great Convergence were marked by a strange calm on Kel-VR. The twin suns rose and set as they always had, the bioluminescent flora continued their rhythmic pulse, and the Varu returned to their daily lives. But beneath the surface, a current of unease flowed through their society. The unlocking of the Nexus had left a profound impact on the Varu. Although the immediate danger had passed, the memory of the Ziran and their mysterious warning lingered in the minds of all who had witnessed the event. In the weeks that followed, the High Council met regularly to discuss the implications of what had transpired, but answers remained elusive. The Nexus itself had returned to its dormant state, its energy no longer pulsing through the planet's core. Scientists and engineers studied the crystal day and night, hoping to glean some understanding of the power that had been unleashed. But the Nexus remained silent, its secrets locked away once more. Jir-Ax, burdened by the weight of his decision, spent long hours in contemplation. The Ziran's words echoed in his mind: "The Nexus has served its purpose, but its power must not be used again." What had they truly meant? And what was the ancient knowledge they guarded so closely? One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Jir-Ax made his way to the observatory, a vast structure perched on the highest peak of the city. The observatory was a place of solitude, where the Varu could gaze upon the stars and reflect on their place in the universe. It was here that Jir-Ax hoped to find some clarity, some guidance for the uncertain path ahead. As he entered the dome-shaped building, the soft hum of machinery greeted him. The observatory was filled with intricate instruments and holographic displays, all focused on the night sky above. The stars shone brightly through the transparent ceiling, twinkling like a sea of diamonds scattered across the cosmos. Jir-Ax approached the central console, where the lead astronomer, Fai-In, was busy adjusting the settings of a large telescope. Fai-In was one of the few Varu who had remained calm during the convergence, her mind always focused on the scientific aspects of the event rather than the fear it inspired. "Chancellor," she said, acknowledging his presence with a slight nod. "I didn't expect to see you here tonight." "I needed to clear my thoughts," Jir-Ax replied, his voice heavy with weariness. "The events of the past weeks have left us all with more questions than answers." Fai-In nodded in agreement, her eyes still fixed on the telescope's viewfinder. "Indeed. The Nexus ... it's unlike anything we've ever encountered. Its energy, its connection to the planet, it's as if it's alive, in a way we can't fully comprehend." Jir-Ax stepped closer, looking up at the stars. "And the Ziran?" What do you make of them? Fi Yian hesitated, then turned to face him. The Ziran are a mystery, Chancellor. We've scoured our archives searching for any mention of them in our history, but there's nothing. It's as if they appeared out of nowhere, only to vanish again once their task was complete. Do you think they'll return? Jirax asked, his gaze distant. I don't know, Fi Yian admitted. But I believe they left us with a warning. The Nexus is powerful, but it's also dangerous. We must be careful in how we approach it in the future. Jirax nodded, deep in thought. The Nexus had saved them, but it had also opened a door to forces beyond their understanding. As the leader of his people, he knew that the responsibility of guarding that power now rested on his shoulders. Fi Yian, he said after a long silence, I want you to lead a team of our best minds to study the Nexus further. We need to understand it, to learn how to control it, so that we're prepared if such a crisis arises again. The astronomer looked at him with a mixture of concern and determination. I'll do my best, Chancellor, but I must warn you there are risks involved. The Nexus is unpredictable, and any attempt to interact with it could have unforeseen consequences. I understand, Jirax replied, but we cannot afford to ignore it. The survival of our world and perhaps the entire galaxy may depend on what we learn. Fi, he nodded, her expression resolute. Very well, I'll assemble a team and begin the work immediately. As she returned to her instruments, Jirax felt a strange sense of both relief and trepidation. He had taken the first step towards understanding the Nexus, but what they would discover and how it would shape their future remained uncertain. Days turned into weeks, and the research team worked tirelessly in the Nexus chamber, using every tool and technique at their disposal to unlock its secrets. They studied its energy patterns, its interaction with the planet's core, and its response to various stimuli. But despite their efforts, the Nexus remained an enigma, revealing only fragments of its true nature. Meanwhile, life on Kelviar continued as usual, though a subtle undercurrent of unease persisted. The Varu had always been a peaceful and introspective people, but now there was a growing sense of curiosity and concern about what lay beyond their world. The appearance of the Ziran had stirred something within them, a desire to explore, to understand, to seek out the unknown. This newfound curiosity led to a resurgence in space exploration. The Varu had long maintained a small fleet of starships, used primarily for scientific missions within their own star system. But now, under the guidance of Jirax, the High Council authorized the construction of new, more advanced ships capable of traveling beyond their home system and into the depths of Andros 12. The first of these ships, named the Orion, was a marvel of Varu engineering. It was equipped with the latest technology, much of it derived from their studies of the Nexus. The ship was designed for long-duration missions, with advanced propulsion systems, energy shields, and a sophisticated AI to assist the crew in their explorations. The Orion was crewed by a team of the Varu's finest scientists, engineers, and explorers, all eager to embark on the journey that lay ahead. Their mission was to seek out other civilizations, to learn more about the galaxy they inhabited, and to gather knowledge that might help them understand the Nexus and the Ziran. As the Orion prepared for its maiden voyage, the entire city of Lur-Ia gathered to witness the launch. The atmosphere was charged with excitement and anticipation, a sense of adventure that had not been felt on Kelviar in generations. High Chancellor Jirax stood at the launch platform, his heart swelling with pride as he looked at the sleek, silver ship poised for takeoff. This was a new beginning for his people, a step into the unknown that would shape the future of their civilization. The countdown began, and as the final moments ticked away, the Orion's engines roared to life. The ground trembled as the ship lifted off, ascending into the sky with a brilliant trail of light. The crowd watched in awe as the Orion disappeared into the heavens, embarking on its journey into the vast expanse of the galaxy. For Jirax, the launch of the Orion was a moment of triumph, but also one of reflection. The Nexus had opened their eyes to the greater cosmos, but it had also brought them face to face with dangers they had never imagined. As the leader of the Varu, he knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he also knew that they were no longer alone. The Ziran were out there, somewhere, and the knowledge they had left behind would be both a guide and a warning. As the days turned into weeks, the Orion traveled further and further from Kelviar, exploring distant star systems and encountering new wonders at every turn. The crew sent back regular reports, detailing their discoveries and the new knowledge they were gathering. But despite the excitement of their mission, there was always an undercurrent of caution. a reminder of the power that had been unleashed on their homeworld. Then, one day, the Orion encountered something unexpected. Deep within the uncharted regions of Andros 12, the ship's sensors picked up a faint signal, unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was a series of pulses, rhythmic and deliberate, emanating from a distant star system on the very edge of the galaxy. The crew was intrigued, and after a brief consultation, they decided to alter their course and investigate the source of the signal. As they approached the system, the signal grew stronger, more defined, until it became clear that it was not a natural phenomenon, but an intentional transmission. The Orion entered the star system cautiously, its sensors scanning the surrounding space for any signs of danger. The system was old, its sun a dim red giant that cast a reddish hue over the planets that orbited it. The signal was coming from one of these planets, a small, rocky world with a thin atmosphere and a surface scarred by ancient impact craters. As the Orion descended into orbit, the crew could see the remnants of what appeared to be a long, abandoned civilization. Ruined cities dotted the landscape, their structures crumbling and overgrown with strange, alien vegetation. The signal was coming from one of these cities, a massive structure that dominated the center of the largest continent. The crew landed the Orion near the structure and disembarked, their excitement tempered by a sense of foreboding. The structure was made of a dark material that seemed to absorb light, giving it an eerie, almost otherworldly appearance. As they approached, they could see that the entrance was sealed, but the signal was still coming from within. Using their advanced tools, the crew managed to open the entrance, revealing a dark, cavernous interior. The walls were lined with strange symbols and markings, unlike anything the Varu had ever seen. The signal was stronger now, almost deafening, and it seemed to be coming from deep within the structure. As they ventured further inside, the atmosphere grew colder, and the light from their torches seemed to be swallowed by the darkness. But the crew pressed on, driven by a mix of curiosity and determination. Finally, they reached the source of the signal, a large chamber at the heart of the structure. In the center of the chamber stood a massive device, its surface covered in the same strange symbols that adorned the walls. The device was ancient, but it still hummed with power, its core pulsing with the rhythmic signal that had drawn them here. As they approached, the device began to activate, its symbols glowing with an eerie blue light. The air was filled with a low hum, growing louder and more intense with each passing second. And then, without warning, the device emitted a blinding flash of light, and the chamber was filled with a deafening roar. The crew was thrown back, their senses overwhelmed by the sudden burst of energy. When the light finally faded, they found themselves lying on the cold, metallic floor, disoriented and shaken. But the device was no longer dormant. It pulsed with a new, more powerful energy, and the symbols on its surface had rearranged themselves into a pattern that the Varu could now recognize, a pattern that matched the ancient symbols they had seen on the Nexus back on Kelviar. The realization hit them all at once. This device, this ancient relic from a long-forgotten civilization, was somehow connected to the Nexus, and whatever power it held, it was now active once more. As they struggled to comprehend the implications of their discovery, the crew of the Orion knew that they had stumbled upon something far greater than they had ever imagined. The Nexus was not just a source of power, it was part of a larger, cosmic network, a network that spanned the galaxy and beyond. And somewhere out there, the Zeran were watching. The Orion raced through the dark void of space, leaving the mysterious star system behind. The crew was silent, their minds occupied with the weight of their discovery. The device they had activated was unlike anything they had ever encountered, and the knowledge that it was connected to the Nexus on Kelviar filled them with both awe and dread. Vice Chancellor Jir-Ax had been informed of the discovery as soon as the Orion made contact. He listened intently as the captain of the ship described the events that had transpired, his expression growing more serious with each word. "Chancellor, we believe this device is part of a larger network," the captain said. "A network that spans the galaxy and possibly beyond. And it's active. Whatever power we unleashed on Kelviar, it has now awakened something far greater." Jir-Ax's heart sank. The warnings of the Zeran echoed in his mind, and he knew that they were facing something far beyond their understanding. The Nexus was not just a source of energy, it was a key to an ancient cosmic force that had remained dormant for eons. "We need to return to Kelviar immediately," Jir-Ax said, his voice firm. "Prepare the ship for the journey. We must understand what this means for our world and our people." The captain nodded and relayed the orders to the crew. The Orion's engines roared to life, and the ship began its journey back to Kelviar, the stars streaking past as it accelerated to faster-than-light speeds. As the ship hurtled through space, Jir-Ax couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. The Xeron's warning had been clear: the Nexus must not be used again. But now it was clear that simply leaving it dormant was no longer an option. The ancient network had been activated, and there was no way to predict what would happen next. When the Orion finally arrived at Kelviar, the crew was greeted with a sight that took their breath away. The planet was surrounded by a shimmering field of light, a protective barrier that had not been there when they left. The field was composed of the same energy as the Nexus, its surface rippling with waves of blue and purple light. The ship approached cautiously, its sensors scanning the field for any signs of danger. As they drew closer, the field parted, allowing the Orion to pass through unharmed. The crew exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what to expect as they descended toward the surface. The city of Lur-Ia was bathed in the soft glow of the barrier, its spires casting long shadows across the ground. The atmosphere was calm, almost serene, but there was an undercurrent of tension that hung in the air. The Varu had sensed the change, and they were waiting for their leaders to explain what was happening. Jir-Ax disembarked from the Orion, his footsteps echoing on the polished stone floor of the landing platform. He was met by Fai Yen and a group of council members, all of whom wore expressions of concern. "Chancellor, what's happening?" Fai Yen asked, her voice tinged with worry. "The barrier appeared shortly after you left. We've tried to analyze it, but it's unlike anything we've ever seen." "It's the Nexus," Jir-Ax replied, his tone grave. "The network has been activated, and the Nexus is responding. We need to get to the Nexus chamber immediately." The group hurried through the city, their path illuminated by the soft glow of the barrier above. As they descended into the depths of Kelviar, the energy of the Nexus grew stronger, pulsing through the ground and resonating in their bones. When they reached the Nexus chamber, they found it transformed. The crystalline structure at the center of the chamber was now glowing with an intense, almost blinding light. The air was thick with energy, crackling with power that sent shivers down their spines. Jir-Ax approached the Nexus cautiously, feeling its pull on his very soul. The crystal seemed to recognize him, its light intensifying as he drew near. He could feel the energy coursing through him, filling him with a sense of both fear and awe. "What is happening?" one of the council members asked, their voice trembling. "The Nexus is awake," Jir-Ax replied, his eyes fixed on the glowing crystal. "And it's connected to the ancient network. The device we activated in the distant star system, it's part of this network. The Xeron warned us not to use the Nexus, but now that it's been awakened, we have no choice but to understand its purpose." Fai Yin stepped forward, her eyes wide with realization. "Chancellor, if the Nexus is part of a network, then it must have a function, a purpose that goes beyond anything we've imagined. We need to study it, to decipher its code. Only then can we hope to control it." Jir-Ax nodded, his mind racing. The future of Kelviar, and perhaps the entire galaxy, depended on what they learned in the coming days. The Nexus held the key to a power that could either save or destroy them, and they were running out of time to figure out which it would be. The research team worked around the clock, poring over the data they had gathered from the Orion and the Nexus chamber. They analyzed the energy patterns, the symbols, and the ancient language that had begun to emerge from the crystal. The more they learned, the more they realized how little they truly understood. As the days passed, the energy field around Kelviar began to shift and change. It pulsed with increasing intensity, its light growing brighter and more erratic. The Varu could feel the energy in the air, a tangible force that seemed to vibrate through the very fabric of reality. Then, one day, the Nexus spoke. It was not a voice, but a presence, a consciousness that filled the minds of everyone on Kelviar. The Varu felt it as a wave of emotion, a mix of urgency, sadness, and hope. The message was clear. Even though it defied words, the Nexus was alive, and it was trying to communicate. The research team scrambled to decipher the message, using every tool and technique at their disposal. They analyzed the patterns of light, the fluctuations in energy, and the ancient symbols that had appeared on the crystal. Slowly, piece by piece, they began to unravel the code. The message, once decoded, sent shockwaves through the Varu. The Nexus was not just a source of power, it was a guardian, a sentinel left behind by an ancient civilization to protect the galaxy from a great and terrible force. The network it was connected to was a vast interstellar defense system, designed to detect and neutralize threats on a cosmic scale. The Zirn were part of this ancient order, tasked with maintaining the network and ensuring that its power was only used in times of dire need. But over the eons, the knowledge of the network had been lost, buried beneath layers of history and forgotten by all but a few. Now, with the activation of the Nexus, the network had been reawakened, and the Varu found themselves at the center of a conflict that had been brewing for millennia. The threat was real, and it was coming. The Varu had only a short time to prepare. The Nexus provided them with the knowledge they needed to activate the defensive systems, to harness the power of the ancient network. But it also came with a warning: the energy required to fully activate the network would come at a great cost. Kelvier itself would be drained, its life force used to power the defenses that would protect the galaxy. Jirax was faced with an impossible choice. He could save his world, but in doing so, he would condemn his own people to extinction. The Varu had always been a peaceful race, devoted to the pursuit of knowledge and harmony with their planet. But now they were being asked to sacrifice everything for the greater good. The High Council convened one final time, the weight of the decision heavy in the air. The debate was long and impassioned, with voices on both sides arguing for and against the activation of the network. But in the end, the choice fell to Jirax. He stood before the council, his heart heavy with the burden of leadership. The fate of his people, and of countless others across the galaxy, rested on his shoulders. He knew that there was no easy answer, no path that would not lead to suffering. But he also knew that the Varu had always been a people of honor, dedicated to the preservation of life and the pursuit of truth. With a deep breath, Jirax made his decision. "We are the guardians of this world," he said, his voice strong and unwavering. "And now we are the guardians of the galaxy. The Nexus has chosen us for this task, and we must not shy away from our responsibility. We will activate the network, and in doing so, we will protect all that we hold dear." The council fell silent, the weight of his words settling over them. There was no more debate, no more argument. The decision had been made. The Nexus chamber was filled with an eerie calm as the final preparations were made. The scientists and engineers worked in silence, their faces etched with determination and resolve. The crystal at the center of the chamber pulsed with a steady light, as if it knew what was coming. Jirax stood before the Nexus, his hand once again resting on its surface. The energy coursed through him, filling him with a sense of peace and clarity. He closed his eyes, letting the connection deepen, until he could feel the presence of the Nexus within him. The activation sequence began, and the chamber was bathed in a brilliant light. The energy field around Kelvier surged, its intensity growing with each passing second. The ground trembled, and the air was filled with a low, resonant hum. As the energy built to a crescendo, the Nexus released its power. The light became blinding, filling every corner of the chamber and radiating out across the planet. The energy field around Kelvier expanded, stretching out into the void of space, connecting with the other nodes of the ancient network. The Varu watched in awe as the energy spread across the galaxy, a web of light that linked countless worlds and star systems. The network was active, its power surging through the cosmos, ready to defend against the coming threat. And then, as quickly as it had begun, the light faded. The Nexus dimmed, its energy spent, and the chamber fell silent once more. Jirax opened his eyes, his body trembling with exhaustion. He could feel the drain on the planet, the life force of Kelvier slowly ebbing away, but he also felt a sense of accomplishment, of fulfillment. They had done what needed to be done. The galaxy was safe for now. In the days that followed, the Varu began the process of rebuilding. The energy field around Kelvier remained, a shield that would protect them from any future threats. The Nexus, now dormant once more, stood as a testament to their sacrifice. But the Varu were not alone. The Zirn returned, their presence felt across the planet as they worked to stabilize the network and ensure that the power of the Nexus was used wisely. They brought with them knowledge and technology that would help the Varu survive and thrive in this new era. And so, the Varu continued their journey, their eyes turned toward the stars. They had faced the unknown, and they had emerged stronger for it. The Nexus had changed them, had awakened something within them that could never be extinguished. As Jirax stood on the observation deck, looking out at the shimmering energy field that now surrounded his world, he felt a sense of pride and hope. The Varu had become the guardians of the galaxy, protectors of life and knowledge. And their story was only just beginning.